Welcome to the Explainer. So, you know how large language models are basically becoming the new backbone for, well, everything in enterprise AI? But here's the thing. You can't just plug in a generic model and expect magic. So today, we're going to break down how businesses take these powerful AIs and make them actually smart for their specific needs. We're going to look at two key methods, fine-tuning and what's called Retrieval-Augmented Generation.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle the big question. Why even bother with customization in the first place? Then we'll get to know our two main contenders, fine-tuning, which we're calling the scholar, and RAG, the librarian. We'll put them head-to-head, see where they shine, and then, and this is the really cool part, we'll explore how they might just be better together.
So why can't you just take a powerful, off-the-shelf AI and let it run wild in your business? I mean, it sounds so simple, right? But the reality is that these general-purpose models, they kind of hit a wall when they're faced with the really specific, nitty-gritty challenges of any given industry.
And here's why. These big foundation models, they're trained on like the entire public internet. That makes them incredible generalists. You know, they know a little bit about a lot of things. But if you're in finance or healthcare or law, you don't need a generalist, you need a specialist. You need an expert with deep, specific knowledge of your world.
Okay, so let's jump into our first method, fine-tuning. And the best way to wrap your head around this is to picture a specialist scholar. Like, think of an academic who spent their entire life studying one single super niche topic. That knowledge isn't in a book on their shelf, it's completely baked into who they are. They don't have to look anything up, they just know.
Right, and what's absolutely crucial to get here is that you're not starting from scratch. You're taking a model that's already really smart and basically sending it to grad school for your specific industry. You feed it your curated, high-quality data, and by doing that, you're literally rewiring its brain, adjusting its internal neural weights, so it starts to think and talk like an expert in your field. So how does this actually work? Well, it breaks down into three main steps. First, you've got to gather your data. And we're talking about really high-quality, relevant stuff, like your internal legal documents or thousands of customer support chats. Next up is the actual training. This is where you use all that data to really change the model's core behavior. And finally, of course, you have to test it. You test it like crazy to make sure all that work actually made it smarter for the jobs you needed to do.
So what's the payoff for all this effort? Well, you get some serious advantages. We're talking expert-level performance. Your model now gets all the jargon and nuance of your industry, and it can spit out answers that are super fast and context-aware because all that knowledge is just there. It's internalized. And here's a huge one. You can train it to adopt a specific tone. It can sound exactly like your brand, which is a massive win.
Yeah, but that kind of deep expertise doesn't come cheap. Fine-tuning can be incredibly expensive and slow. It needs a ton of computing power. We're talking serious GPU muscle. Then there's the risk of what's called overfitting, where the model doesn't really learn, it just memorizes the examples you gave it. Not very smart. And maybe the biggest drawback, that knowledge is static. It's frozen in time. The second new information comes out, your scholar's already out of date, and you have to go through that whole expensive retraining process all over again.
Okay, so that's the scholar. Now let's meet our second contender, Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG for short. Now instead of that scholar with all the knowledge memorized, I want you to picture a brilliant librarian. This librarian hasn't memorized every single book in the library, but they know exactly where to find anything in an instant. They have access to a huge, constantly updated library and can pull the latest, most relevant info to answer any question you throw at them.
And this is the absolute key difference between the two. RAG doesn't actually change the AI model itself. Its core brain stays the same. Instead, it gives the model a new skill, a superpower really, the ability to consult an external knowledge base. So before it even tries to answer your question, it goes and looks up the relevant, up-to-the-minute facts. It grounds its answer in something real and verifiable.
So it's basically a two-step dance. A question comes in. First, a component called the retriever goes to work. It does what's called a semantic search, which is super cool. It's searching for the meaning behind your words, not just keywords, and it finds the most relevant documents in that knowledge base. Okay, once it has the right books or documents, it hands them over to the generator. That's the LLM. The LLM then reads that fresh information and uses it to craft a really intelligent, accurate, and up-to-date answer.
But of course, a librarian is only as good as their library, right? If the library is a mess, you're not going to find anything useful. For RAG, this means that external knowledge base has to be organized, and organized well. And the secret sauce for that organization is a technique called chunking.
And this quote here from Undata's
via Databricks just nails it. It says, the main goal of chunking is to segment complex data into more digestible pieces. This improves retrieval accuracy and reduces computational overhead. Basically, you're taking huge documents and breaking them into small, meaningful paragraphs or chunks. This makes it way easier and faster for the AI to find the exact tidbit of info it needs. It's a total game changer for accuracy.
So what's the upside of the librarian approach? Well, the advantages are pretty huge. First, your information is always current. Want to update the AI's knowledge? Just add a new document to the library. Done. It's way cheaper and faster than constantly retraining a whole model. And this one's a big deal. It can cite its sources. It can show you why it gave you that answer, which makes the whole system so much more trustworthy. You can actually verify the information.
But it's not all perfect. The librarian has some challenges too. For one, the whole system is totally at the mercy of its library. Garbage in, garbage out. If your documents are inaccurate or poorly organized, your answers will be too. That lookup step can also add a little bit of a delay or latency to getting a response. And maybe most critically, you're hooking this AI up to your internal, potentially sensitive data. So security, compliance, and who gets access to what, that becomes absolutely paramount.
Okay, so we've met the scholar, and we've met the librarian. Now let's put them in the ring for a head-to-head showdown. But remember, the goal here isn't to declare one overall winner. It's about figuring out which tool is the right tool for the job.
And this chart does a great job of laying it all out. You can see it right there. Fine-tuning the scholar is your go-to for deep, nuanced understanding and for getting that specific tone just right. But RAG, the librarian, is the undisputed champ when you need real-time, evolving information and hard, factual accuracy. And then you look at resources and maintenance, and the story couldn't be clearer. Fine-tuning is a massive effort, while RAG is so much more agile and way cheaper to keep up to date.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. What if you didn't have to choose? Because the most powerful approach, the one that's really the future here, isn't about picking a side at all. It's about combining their strengths.
Yeah, the really smart teams out there are figuring this out. It's not versus. It's not the scholar or the librarian. The real power comes when making them work together.
This is that best of both worlds scenario. Think about it. You get an expert scholar who also has a library card. You use fine-tuning to teach the model how to reason, how to adopt your company's unique voice and style. And then you use RAG to make sure that every answer it gives is grounded in the latest, verifiable facts from its library. What you get is a system that's both incredibly smart and always up to date. It's robust, it's adaptable, it's just better.
Now, of course, a hybrid system like this brings its own set of challenges. I mean, engineering a system that knows when to rely on its internal knowledge versus when to go look something up, that takes some really thoughtful design. And you have to be careful that the scholar's baked-in knowledge doesn't start to conflict with what's in the library's newest books. Keeping them in sync is a real consideration.
So really, it all boils down to this. The question isn't which one is better, because there's no single answer. Fine-tuning is for embedding that deep, almost intuitive expertise and style. RAG is for giving your AI access to a live, breathing world of facts. So the right choice for you? It depends entirely on your project's goals, what your data looks like, and frankly, what kind of resources you can throw at it.
And that's the question we'll leave you with. Are you trying to build a specialist scholar with that deep, internalized wisdom? Or are you building an open book genius who has instant access to infinite, up-to-the-minute facts? Or are you ready to build the hybrid that gets you both? Answering that question is the key to building truly powerful and effective AI. Thanks for joining this explainer.